We're live again. Hi, everyone. Another live, another special guest. I believe she's here. She's in the house. So why don't we bring her aboard? Let's see, how do I do this? Hi, everyone. Here's my special guest. It's Noam.
Hey,
Hi,
hey,
Noam.
special Daniel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Ah, I hate this question.
Okay. You shouldn't have asked it of me then,
I
because
know,
I'm always going to
but
give it back.
what do you answer these days? Like, how are you? What do you say?
I just go by my mood on that particular day, and I'm actually like, I know a lot of people are feeling really heavy these days, and of course, you're over there, you're on the land, you're in that place, whatever we want to call it, uh,
The
and
land.
the land, and a lot of people are carrying I mean, I'm I'm either in like a good mood or I'm irritated. I'm kind of like, it's weird. For some reason, I'm not most of the time carrying around too much extra stuff. I don't know how that's possible, but maybe it's just coping.
Yeah.
Sometimes
So,
I get overwhelmed
yeah,
with too much content and too much activity. That's the thing.
a friend of mine told me that like these days, when someone asks her, "How are you?" she says, "I am."
Very Eckhart Tolle. I
I am.
am that I
Yeah.
am. I love that.
But I swing between like total like vomiting over the things I see and hear around me, frustration, to little um, like meetings and encounters that sometimes give me oxygen.
Yeah.
So I walk around like a beggar for crumbs of like
Hmm.
sanity. Wherever I see them, I like stay there and I soak it up and I have the conversation that fills me up. And it's that's these are the only moments where I get to escape a little bit, or because yeah, these, I mean, you're doing a lot of lives and I watch and I listen and I hear, and it's amazing that you're having these conversations. These conversations are not being held here,
Mm.
and it's scary, and I'm also a little bit scared, and I feel silenced and threatened all the time.
Within your own country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who don't know you, you want to just introduce yourself, say where you are and what you're up to in life, and just, yeah, what brings you to this topic.
Wow. I'm Noam. I'm, as you said, a trader, a comedian, activist.
That you gave me that
That's
language. I
true.
wouldn't have used it if you hadn't given it to me.
Yeah. I what brings me to this topic is my being my whole life. I grew up in a very political household. Um, my father is a son of Holocaust survivors from Romania. So my grandparents survived a Nazi labor camp in Romania, and my mom was born in Iran actually. So I'm half, the Holocaust trauma and half the Iranian Jewish. I don't call it trauma because the trauma is a little part of it, but there is some trauma because my family from on the Iranian side basically they were stripped away from
You
their homeland.
don't call that a trauma?
It is a trauma, but the life that my family had in Iran is not traumatic, and
Right.
I don't want.
The losing it was.
Yes, but I don't want to call my relationship with Iran only trauma, because my grandmother created a house that when I entered her home, I felt like I was in Iran, from her food, from the language, from the way she held my
Well,
hands.
but I think this actually speaks to something I've only been learning about
Yeah,
recently, as you
yeah,
probably
we have
know, uh,
mutual friends.
mutual friends, and just learning about the specifics of Mizrahi Israeli trauma, which isn't
Yeah,
about we were so mistreated somewhere. It's about we had a life there, we had a culture there, we had an identity there, we were a minority there, but we lived as a part of a larger whole. And then there's
absolutely.
the trauma that Zionism imposed by fucking all that shit up, and both by stoking Arab nationalism all over the place, which resulted in unfriendliness towards Jews or hostility, but also actually Israeli meddling in the communities of these various places to try and induce Jews to move there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way, you know, I didn't really have a lot of conversations with my grandparents from Iran about the like intellectual part of it because they were busy surviving.
Yeah.
You know, my mother has 8 siblings, large family. They were kicked in, they were put in, not a lot of people know that, but the Israeli establishment put them into these like, you know, development towns where they didn't really have many choices, and they were busy surviving. And then when I grew a little older and I realized like, why is my family living in this shithole? Like, and other families are living in much more, and you know, Ashkenazi families are living in much more privileged places. Then I started getting into this, you know, the definition of Zionism that came from Eastern Europe. It doesn't apply to my grandfather whatsoever from Iran. My
No.
grandfather in Iran, when he was praying towards Zion, there was nothing militant about it, and there was no dream of conquering anything, you know?
Yeah.
Because in Iran, my grandmother was born next to the tomb of Esther, Queen Esther, and so they weren't apart from, you know, living amongst their Jewish life. It was an extension of it, praying towards you know, Zion. It was holy. It is holy, just as it is for to many other people. The connection to the land is a holy, but their home was in Iran. And my grandmother dreamt about Iran and told me stories about Iran, even though we didn't speak the same language. My grandmother and I, you know, she spoke Farsi. She spoke broken Hebrew. No one ever really taught her Hebrew.
Mm.
And they didn't speak to me in Farsi growing up because they kept this like a secret language. Who's pregnant, who's getting married, who's getting divorced, who's
Yeah.
cheating on her husband, all in
It was like
Farsi. Right.
Hungarian in my family. I used to, my dad and his parents would speak in Hungarian, and then my dad and his brothers would do like dirty farmyard sex jokes in Hungarian to each other around the Passover table, and die laughing, and and of course I would only get paraphrases.
Did you, yeah, did you mark up some words that then were
I should
repeated?
have.
And
I should have.
yeah.
So that's a very interesting mixed identity for you, or intersecting, we could say, identity. You said it was a very political home. What was your home's relationship to Zionism itself?
So my both of my parents, you know, we talk. I talk on in my stand up, in my comedy, a lot about coexistence, and I make fun of coexistence. But I always say that even before the part in my life that started the coexistence with Palestinians, there is a coexistence of like the Mizrahi side and the Ashkenazi side in my identity. And the fact that my parents still get along after 50 years is amazing. So and both of my parents come from houses of, you know, of immigrants. They kind of wanted to run away from the traditional Jewish household that they grew up in. And my parents met in high school, in a boarding school for kids from kind of like low income houses, and they developed their political and social awareness together.
So there was a class awareness as well, I assume, given that background.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The fact that my dad, an Ashkenazi kind of, you know, Romanian, is, you know, is choosing an Iranian darker skin. You know, there was a choice there,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, you know, I mean, my grandmother survived a lot of trauma, you know, in Romania, but it's amazing how, you know, I felt as was a kid, it was so sad for me to learn that when my dad, my blonde, you know, green eyes dad, brought my mom to his mom, she kind of slammed the door in her face and she told him, "Why are you bringing this Schwarze, you know, this like dark,
That's
you know,
that's the Yiddish N word, basically.
the Yiddish N word," and slammed the door in her face. And my dad didn't speak to his parents for some time, and then they went back to speaking. And I think through this experience, my parents kind of developed a lot of social and political awareness.
Obviously, yeah.
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 And in the first Intifada, when I was very, very little, my father, he was called for reserve duties in the Israeli military, and he refused to go to Lebanon, to the occupied Palestinian territory.
Was he in Yishvu?
Yes.
Hey, I remember them.
Yeah.
They were the heroes of
And,
the first Intifada.
right. And it was at a time when there was a movement, you know, there were a lot of Israelis who were refusing. And also during the massacre of Sabra and Shatila, there
That's
was
right.
the big demonstration of the 400,000 people
In
who in
Tel
Tel
Aviv.
Aviv. And so just, you know, thinking of the frustration, you know, I see my parents' face because they had such a different dream for me. When I was 7 years old, they moved to the only community. It's in between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. It's the only community where Palestinians and Jews live together by choice. It's called in Arabic Wahat al-Salam, and in English the Oasis of Peace, and in Hebrew Neve Shalom.
Neve Shalom. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course I've heard of it. Yeah.
And every time I type it on my iPhone, it autocorrects it to Never Shalom. So I grew up in
That's the
Never
name of it.
Shalom.
That's the name of your memoir or
Yeah,
your one
yeah.
woman show there, Never Shalom. That's your Netflix comedy special? Come on.
Never Shalom. My
Never
my
Shalom.
comedy my comedy show is called Coexistence My Ass.
Excellent.
And
But I love the idea that you had to learn to coexist within yourself, but your parents gave you a model for that, right?
yeah, I think so. I think so. But when my parents moved to this community, it basically changed, you know, the whole course of my life, because the language I speak became also Arabic, because my neighbors and my teachers started speaking to me only in Arabic.
Huh.
And there was no longer just the Israeli narrative. You know, you grow up with the stories of the Nakba, you grow up with the stories of what happened in 1948 to your neighbors, to your best friends. And so, you know, if up until us moving to Never Shalom, it was me being exposed more to the Israeli side because of where we were, suddenly I'm in a place where there isn't just one narrative, and I'm fully, as a child, suddenly my whole life is twisted upside down.
How is Israel tolerating the presence of a place like this? I mean, the Zionism and the Jewish supremacist regime works so well to keep Jews and Arabs separate, to keep Mizrahim and Ashkenazim, you know, stratified. Like, what was, I mean, because I grew up in Habonim Dror, you know, the
Yeah,
left wing kibbutz Zionism stuff. And we were always thinking that we had the most enlightened, we're going to go to kibbutz and start an earbutz or something like that, like in the city or whatever, and do some coexistence work. But there's this actual town where people are actually living together. How did it come about, and how did Israel allow it to happen in a way, or how did you buck the system?
yeah,
How did that town buck the
yeah.
system?
So that's, I think, you know, there's like the upside and the downside of it. It's kind of a fairy tale story, you know.
Mm.
Israel didn't want this to happen. The
No.
land that this community sits on, it was actually in 67, it was a buffer zone that belongs to the Latrun monastery.
Okay.
So this land, this whole initiative started by, are you making coffee? You're making
Yes,
coffee.
I'm making coffee.
Nice. Cool. It's 4:30 p.m. It's time for is it your second coffee, your
It's
third
not coffee. It's actually an adaptogenic mushroom cacao drink.
coffee? Of course. Oh my God.
I had my coffee this morning.
Nice. And then so for the rest of the day, you don't repeat the coffee. You go
I go to
to
other things. I go to tea. I go to, adaptogens.
nice, 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 nice. My God, I sometimes hate talking about the community I grew up in, but I feel like it's also like I keep, I keep talking. It's a very tiny place. It's a very special place. I'm very grateful that I grew up there. But as I said, it's kind of like a fairy tale story. Israel wished, you know, I mean, Israel wants to build Jewish-only settlements. That's very, I think that's very, very clear to everyone. And we are like, how do you say, like kotz v'garon, like a thorn,
A thorn in their side.
yeah, a thorn in the foot.
Let's go on.
And and I don't know, it was donated. The man who started it is an Egyptian Jew who converted to become a priest in this monastery.
Wow.
Came to the Holy Land and wanted to take this piece of land that was declared as a buffer zone to make it a place where Palestinians, Christian, Muslim, and Jews live together by choice. And I don't know what went through my parents' brain. Instead of raising me somewhere fun where I don't have to carry on my shoulders everything, they raised me there. And that's when also my Mizrahi identity kind of like collapsed in a car crash into this, because as you can imagine, the peace camp in Israel is predominantly, of course, secular and Ashkenazi. There are not many Mizrahi traditional people. And me and my mom grew up in this village, you know, as the only kind of Arab looking Jews within this atmosphere, you know, within this kind of hippie, kumbaya, let's live together, blah, blah, blah. But actually my skin color, my culture, everything was so close to Palestinians that it was so organic and natural, you know. Anyways, we're talking about very, very complex things, and it sounds, you know, and I'm condensing it to short sentences, but
well, it gives us a sense. What it gives me a sense of is how everything there is so packed. It's so densely packed with subtext and complication. You know.
yeah.
I was just, when you said, you know, your parents, you don't know what they were thinking to raise you there. If they hadn't raised you there, and October 7th happened, might you have been more susceptible to the barrage? I mean, you're there, right? We see it from over here, just the propaganda that comes out of Israel. But from what I can see, the entire Jewish population of Israel are hostages to their government's narrative, which is a fearful one, which is a hateful one. And your upbringing, it sounds like, it inoculated you in some ways against that virus. No?
Yeah, definitely, yes. It's kind of like, you know, I'm speechless. I think most Israelis don't see what you're seeing, and the gap is so huge. People here are cornered into their victimization mode. They don't realize what you are seeing, and
And a lot of people wonder, you guys have social
yeah,
media just like we do. So how are you
yeah,
not seeing it?
yeah.
How does it work? What's the mechanism by which is, I mean, you're starting with the cornered into the victimization, and then how is it that they're just not
You
shown this
know,
stuff, or they don't choose to see it?
yeah. When you want to justify something in your brain, you know, to make yourself kind of feel good about yourself, you go extra miles.
Hmm.
And
I can even relate to
yeah,
that.
I, you know, I can sit here and say like, oh my God, this is, you know, unimaginable and everything. But you know, I consume content in English, Hebrew, and Arabic. We are living in parallel universes. People are not speaking the same emotional languages whatsoever. I have conversations with activists here where we have to, you know, if they go outside and they demonstrate to return the hostages, we try to open their minds up and to say, this has to come, like, how do you want the hostages to come
That's
back?
right.
You know, break it down to what needs to happen. Because if you think that the continuation of an army operation will bring them back, the evidence shows that not. They come back in coffins, and the soldiers will come back in coffins. So what is it? Can you say it? what is the price that we have to pay to save lives? What
That's
is,
right. What do we want to give up? What are we willing
yeah.
to give up? Not just what do we want to get.
And you know, and I think from where you are, I think it's like the conversation around ceasefire.
Yeah.
You know, everyone is like, who's calling for a ceasefire? Who said ceasefire? Who didn't say ceasefire? Ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. From where I'm sitting, ceasefire is a minimum. It's an
Of
embarrassing minimum. It
course it
is
is.
an embarrass, because what we are requiring, of course, a ceasefire is to just stop the bloodshed immediately,
Yeah.
to save the lives that will remain immediately.
Yeah.
But if the conversation stops there and we lose everyone, then it's a huge, huge, huge loss for all the attention that we're getting to this to this place, you know.
Yeah, and the situation that got us into this active crisis to begin with, which was the ongoing crisis.
Exactly.
Well, so how do you shift that with Israelis? I mean, it must be very hard. I spoke to Alon and Elik recently of
Yeah.
the One State Solution podcast, and see, I've actually spoken to so many Israelis who feel the way you do, and they all feel completely alone. And I'm like, no, but I know all of you. There's like at least
But
20 of you.
there's
Why
20.
aren't you? Why aren't you getting together? It's such a small country. But how do you guys?
we
How
meet
do you go about? Yeah.
we meet in protest, and we look at each other and we see how few we are, and we're like, god damn, this is like miserable.
Mm.
And then the police like arrest a bunch of us and stop the protest, and then we're like, oh, I don't think that people from the outside understand the level of silencing and threatening that we are under, the pressure that we are under. It's not just institutions, it's also the atmosphere. People, you know, I'll give you this. You know how there were, throughout this year, there were these big demonstrations against, you know, the government and only the judicial reform, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Basically wanting a better Jewish democracy.
exactly. So these people, let's mark them as like these like centrist, leftist kind of liberals, and they, of course, you know, they are either in military draft, because at the end of the day they put on uniform and they go to the military, or they are busy replacing what the government is supposed to be doing because they have a little bit more sanity in their brains and hearts.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
the people who are evacuated in the south and in the north from, you know, from the situation, they're not being provided, you know, with services and care from the government. Is not really functioning. As you saw, the government is busy with conferences about resettlements in Gaza. This is what
Yeah.
they're busy about. Busy transferring budgets to settlements. This is what Smotrich is doing. He's not busy helping those people and the families of the hostages. And so there is a clear divide. You know, the more liberal camp is with taking care of the families of the hostages, demonstrating with them, really focusing the attention on them. And so people are like, where are the Israelis? Where are the masses? They're nowhere. They're spreaded, because this is what Netanyahu loves to do. He creates chaos and he feeds himself off of this chaos. And we are silenced. We're unable to organize. We are unable really to even communicate, you know, what we are going through. And Palestinian citizens of Israel, that's another case. They're on mute.
Yeah.
They're being, you know, harassed, arrested in masses. If you post even something on Facebook, you are arrested. And it also happened to, you know, to Israeli teachers who, you know, there was an Israeli teacher, I'm sure
Yeah.
you've read about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kindergarten teacher.
Yeah. And so, yeah. Um,
So what are you fighting for right now? I get that it's really hard and that you don't have a, you know, the sense of being able to organize or even get together is very compromised. So, but you do call yourself an activist. So
yeah.
what is the vision for the next evolution of the society of that country? Because you know, as an anti-Zionist yourself, you're looking towards a future where that land is governed in a very, very different way with a very different kind of system. And I would imagine that, I mean, there's always the nuclear option where just everything completely, like there's just a bloodbath and just a terrible, horrible catastrophe, and then something rebuilds. But that's not the one any of us are
Yeah.
hoping for or working towards. So then in the absence of that, I would imagine it's part of the role of your bloc, your camp, to try and prepare Israeli society to be transformed in the way that it needs to be to become equal. And so what does that activism look like?
I think we have to kind of, I think, divide our, be able to divide our attention into lanes. There is the more, immediate stuff, right? Because in the immediate stuff, I mean, there is I mean, I don't have another passport, but there, people around me are confronting, like packing their shit and saying, "Halas, this place is lost. I'm leaving," and leaving it to the Smotrich, to the Ben Gvir, to have their final solution completely happening, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to fight for this place. I want Israelis to understand that what you are wishing the Palestinians, you are wishing to yourself, because
Yeah.
it is inseparable. Everything that happens to Palestinians will happen to
Yeah.
us. The attempt to separate us is not, even the settlers who are dancing, thinking that they're going to resettle on Gaza. Think about it. Their vision is to settle on mass graves. Is this a vision that a human can have? It's inhuman to have this vision right now as it is happening. And if let's say I'm an Israeli who doesn't have compassion for Palestinians, and I'm only talking to Israelis for them to understand, they're dancing and thinking about the settlements in Gaza while 100 and something Israelis are still there under, in the
That's right.
tunnels. So it's it's not, you're not only destructing Palestinians, you're destructing yourself. You are destroying yourself. It is a self-destruction mechanism.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people before me said that to you, in their lives. The thing is that right now, when things are so miserable, I advocate for a ceasefire. I speak out as loudly as I can. I protest where I can. I write. I use my imagination. I escape with my imagination. But we have to remember, Daniel, this is very important. On the day after, when things even go to the minimum, what we are asking for, which is, the ceasefire, which is the very embarrassing minimum, as we said, we will be the ones to pick up the pieces. We will be the ones staying here when all these people who are having their fights on social media, they will disappear to the next thing. We will be here to try and heal what is remaining, to be healed. And I'm sorry to say this, but Israelis, just as happened in other contexts, will learn the hard way, unfortunately,
Yeah.
that there is no other way. It's like me saying, to Israelis right now, they're telling me, so what do you want to do? You want the army to leave Gaza? And I'm like, there will be a ceasefire. So why waste all this blood and all this life and all this destruction and all these millions and the starvation and no water and it's
Not,
why?
not to mention, I mean, you want to, even if just on sheer practical grounds, self-destruction. Who were the Hamas fighters who broke out of that ghetto on October 7th and did that? They were the kids who in 2004, this was before the siege, there was a report by some international medical or psychological thing reporting on PTSD in children in war zones around the world. And the kids in Gaza in 2004 had rates far higher than anywhere else in the world. And those kids then were put under a 17-year blockade and siege with several massacres, cast lead, pillar of defense, so protective edge, all of that. So they became the October 7th fighters. Well, who are the kids of today, the ones who are lucky or unlucky enough to survive? Who are they going to become? And what kind of a thorn in the side of Israel are they going to? I mean, just the
Daniel,
inability to
yeah.
see beyond, to see the consequence. Zionism sees no consequences to its actions. It's always at the receiving end of random, inexplicable phenomena that are only explainable by one thing: anti-Semitism and hatred of Israel.
You know that a lot of times in discussions, people are like, but what about Hamas? And what did you, all this like Hamas, Hamas. And I'm like, it's Hamas, it's not Hamas, it's Hamas. Like I'm having a extra, language exercises while I'm fighting with people politically. I don't give a fuck about Hamas. I really don't. I give a fuck about my powerful government
That's the
that
correct.
is
Yeah,
able to have superpower countries take funding from UNRWA agency that supports millions of starving people. This same government is the government that fed the head of Hamas, released him from prison, fed him what he did to his people and how he sent them to. I don't have any expectations from Hamas, like I am talking about the policies, the public policies, the public declarations of my government that fed this for years. They told us, we like to keep the Palestinians divided. We'll keep the PA like this and the Hamas like this, and it's good to have them financially covered so they keep quiet and all of these, you did this, you fed this. Daniel, this government did not take responsibility for October 7th.
no.
Netanyahu went to kibbutz Be'eri, the kibbutz that was hit as hard, when the residents are not there because it's not his constituency. They're in a hotel because they're
Yeah,
evacuated. He went there with Elon Musk, the biggest anti-Semite of our time that spreads anti-Semitism. He went there with him to show him the babies, the whatever, all this, the museum of Jewish victimhood again.
yeah.
Instead of going and apologizing to these people, my friends, these are my, how many people I know, Daniel, horror stories that I was online with people in the safe room in the kibbutz, and they didn't tell me what is Hamas doing to us. They know what Hamas wants to do to us. Like, it's not a secret. They're like, where is the fucking government? They neglected us. They left us. And this is what we have to remember. No amount of billions of dollars from the US, no amount of cybersecurity, stupid, fucked up intelligence, most sophisticated, wealthy in the world will never stop people from seeking their liberation. Never, ever, ever. No. You know how many billions of dollars this fence between Gaza and the southern border? Billions of dollars. We as Jews who fought for our redemption, liberation, whatever, for thousands of years, we
And we have
expect,
a holiday to commemorate each time we did.
yeah, and we expect the Palestinians to give that up after 75 years.
Yeah,
How fucked up is this?
yeah.
Why? And I have to tell you that after October 7th, I felt I was always proud of myself for being able to speak at harsh times, and I felt so scared and silenced. And a lot of people were like, Noam, what's going on? And the only thing that I could do is to reach out to these Israelis who lost and survived, who lost family members and survived October 7th, and hear what they have to say.
Yes.
People that I
Yeah.
know. Daniel, most of the people that I interviewed, they primarily talk about the responsibility of the Israeli government,
Yeah.
how they handled it before, during, and after.
I remember there was a one, I forget her name, but it was the first video of an Israeli victim of October 7th or survivor that went viral. She was at a hotel near the Dead Sea, and she spoke in Hebrew, and then someone posted with subtitles, and she just spoke with young woman, 19 years
Yeah,
old or something like that. You remember this one?
of course, yeah.
And I was like, these are the Israelis I know, actually, that when things actually happen to them, they know that their government fucked up, and they know that their government has been fucking them around. And these Southern Israeli, this is where the peace activists live. They're not going to be fooled by this story that the government was surprised by it and did everything it could. And no, they were hung out to dry.
Yeah. And on top of that, I'll tell you, the Ben Gvirs and the Smotriches, they use their identity. They say, oh, these were peace activists. They
Right.
like the Arabs. They helped the Palestinians, and the Palestinians came in and killed them. And there was one picture that was sent to me because I interviewed Vivian Silver, the peace activist. I interviewed her son in this podcast, and someone sent me a picture of a rocket being signed for Vivian Silver.
Yeah.
I was like, how dare you use the grief and the pain of Vivian, who fought her whole life to, and they tell me, no, look, she counted on the Palestinians and they came and they killed her. And her son told me in these words exactly, Noam, there is no justification for my mother being murdered like this, but there are, נסיבות, איך אומרים נסיבות?
Parties? Oh,
Circumstance, no, not מסיבות.
oh no, Nesibot. Okay.
Consequences, which means that he said it proves that my mother was right. My mother said we cannot continue
Yep.
living like this. And it's true. She was killed because of that.
Well, she's a martyr for the cause then,
That-
She lived on her truth and she died on her truth. I was co-hosting Matt Lieb's podcast about Hasbara, which is a lot of fun, and he was showing a video of they've turned one of these kibbutzim into a tourist site for American evangelicals. And there's this Israeli army tour guide now that, of course, a pretty sabra,
yeah.
they trot her out and she says, and there's a poster of some peace activist. And he used to say, and the peace activist used to say that living here is 95% heaven and 5% hell. But the residents of this kibbutz on October 7th found out that it was 100% hell. And here's this fucking guy's picture on a laminated banner being used to drum up Southern Christian American anti-Semitic support for Israel's genocidal campaign against the Palestinians. And as far as the rockets go, with messages written on them and Vivian Silver's name and other things like that, I had this idea. I'd like to invest in it. I'd like to see if we could fund a rocket that self-destructs when you take a Sharpie marker to it.
I don't want to say something anti-Semitic, but that's your Jewish brain thinking about great inventions, Daniel.
And my self-hating brain figuring out
How is it like to be such a self-hating Jew these days from where you are? You've been doing...
That's fucking awesome, man. Iran is sending me tons of money. I got neo-Nazis at my doorstep high-fiving me, leaving me gift baskets. I'm doing their dirty work. No, I've said this many times. I haven't been this proud to be Jewish, this interested in my own Judaism, this open to bringing Judaism back into my life. That's got to do with the number.
Searching
Yeah,
Mizrahi.
yeah, number of factors, but just engaging with this stuff, from and also just reconnecting with Israelis like you. Like I actually miss Israelis. The better part. I've always felt a strong kinship. It's just there was always so much Michigas in the culture,
Yeah.
and so many of the Israelis I knew were trying to gaslight and manipulate me because they were my madrichim at summer camp, and it was their job to do that, and they were, they were great, but that was just their job.
Yeah. And yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes things have to be very, very dramatic and tragic so that you kind of find that you focus in and you find the people that you were supposed to
that's right.
to come across. But
And my friend Carice is just writing to me that there's someone in the chat who's in Gaza who wants to talk to
oh
us,
yeah,
which was unexpected. But let's.
can they request to join?
Yeah, they have. I think they have. So let me see if I can find him. Ah, there he is. Kareem. We're welcoming Kareem Abu Samra to our chat, totally unexpectedly.
Wow.
Kareem,
Hello.
hello.
Hi, Karim.
Yeah, I'm Karim from Gaza, but I live in Turkey.
Okay, gotcha.
But my whole family live in Gaza. Yeah, actually, the situation there is very horrible. We can't imagine every day it's getting worse and worse. Even the winter is it's getting more horrible on the people there. You know, normally without war and people staying in their homes, and some homes it's blowing in the water because the construction in Gaza is very bad. So I'm hoping didn't haven't raining next few days and or few weeks because it's getting worse next few days. And yeah, we have
Karim,
all
where are they
yeah,
located? Where are they now?
my family right now in Rafah, in tent in south of Rafah, south of Gaza. They're staying in tent. Actually, I start fundraising campaign to evacuate my family from Gaza, and I'm working hard to get them out there. And I'm very close to the goal to get them. As you know, there is a huge number you have to pay for getting them outside of Gaza, and it's political and something I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So for important things for me that to get my family safe to stay safe a place. I worked for 1 month very hard to achieve the goal to get them out, and I'm about to achieve
Inshallah.
that. It's very close to it, inshallah.
Karim,
So
can you, when this chat ends, can you send the link so that we can post it so that
And
yeah,
people can go to
yeah,
your profile right
yes,
now, right, and find
it's
it.
in my bio. You can see all the updates, and I'm posting everything what I'm doing right now. I'm in a process to make passports right now, and yeah, I think in next few weeks, just I will get them out of Gaza. It's 1 to 2 weeks to 3 weeks. I hope that happened as soon as
inshallah.
All
possible.
right.
Yeah, but
Pray.
inshallah. Thank you so much for having me here. And please, I want to say to everyone who watching us, just call for ceasefire because the people there are suffering everything. For me, as I'm working very hard for my family, but there is another many families. There is no one who gonna help them. Okay, I'm okay, but I'm still thinking about my people who staying in very bad situation there.
Yes.
Yeah. And something else, that link in my bio, you can see all the update guys there in my account, and please donate as you can as possible, or if you can donate, just share the link. That will be great of you. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Karim,
Thank you.
we pray for your family.
In,
Inshallah, they're safe.
Yeah. Right.
inshallah,
They're
inshallah.
safe
Thank
too.
you so much. Have
You
a good
too.
day. Bye bye.
Bye bye. So yeah, these parallel worlds, right? That's you're. How you doing? Yeah. Sorry, I just talked right over that.
Just the fact that life just continues, it's not something that we can get used to.
No.
And I never imagined in my life that we will be so hopeless. And I think we've warned so many people for so long. You know, Daniel, it's been 18 years since I refused my military service.
Did you go to jail for that?
No, they they did a background check and they saw how many Palestinian friends I have, and they're like, we don't need her in the army anyway.
It's like being gay during the Vietnam War.
Exactly. Something like that, yeah.
Oh man.
But
So it's been that long. What you're gonna say?
I did I knew things will be bad, and I knew the fight is long term, and I knew that we have a long way to go, and I knew that all the things that we're scared of are a real threat, but I didn't think that we will be so hopeless and so alone and so silenced and so, I mean, nobody needs my guilt or my shame. It's something that I'm living with right now. Nobody needs it, right?
No, but we see your pain.
But I feel guilty and shameful for feeling guilty and shameful because, you protest and you get arrested and you do this and you try to help your friends and you try to help one family and then there's 1.9 million more families to help and you're like, what the fuck? Like, what is this chaos? Like, what literally, what can you do? What can I do except for speaking out, except for trying to influence, except for being, I don't know. It's like,
The only thing you can do is stay human. I mean, literally, you can't heal this. You can't solve this. None of us can. And I mean, who am I lecturing to here? You know this stuff. You know, it, that, but that the there is like it's this paradox between futility and possibility. I feel like in order to see the possibilities that are there, you have to come to grips with the futility too, and the things that just you can't fix and change. And but again, it's so easy for me to say. I'm not there. You're there, and you've lived your life, and you know this place inside and out.
yeah, it just feels that when you try to stay human, you lose. You're a loser when you stay
Hmm.
human. That's what this moment feels
What do
like.
you lose?
You lose. You're human, but you lose. You lose. You don't have leverage. You don't have
Hmm.
power. You don't have traffic. You don't have budgets. You don't have like poison to give people to like follow your psycho ideas. Nobody wants to buy humanity. Nobody wants to follow humanity. Nobody wants, I say things that are not radical. I don't think I'm a radical person. I say things that are very basic, normal, human based level. And it's like nobody's listening.
Well, I don't know if you're looking at the chat, but you got a whole lot of people all over the world. I know. I see you're living in the Israeli bunker, and in the Israeli bunker, in that arid, airless room where the window hasn't been open in years. Israel is basically an air raid shelter, you know, and the air is stuffy and you can't breathe. And inside there, yeah, you're very, 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 very alone. You're in a tiny minority, and I still would love to see every single one of you guys form a political party or a group or a something, like get together in a vadi somewhere and just scheme, but yeah, you're in a tiny minority, but man, oh man, is your voice important. And look, I mean, people, never mind buying it, people people need it. People need, because, and this is what I want to actually ask you about, and I'm glad we've gotten to this point. A lot of activism outside of Ilis- Israel, Palestine, Palestine, Israel right now. You know, how to talk about
Mhm.
Israel and how to talk about Israelis is a big issue for people because there's so much disgust with your country and so much disgust with its people when we see videos like the one I shared yesterday. I don't know if you saw that post about people blocking the humanitarian aid. And I wrote about just, on the one hand, my love for Israelis at heart, which I'll never lose, but just look at what this country has become. It's become one of the most disgusting
And it's all out there.
societies.
It's
It's
all
all
dark.
out there. So, and then there's some people who are saying to even use the word Israeli is to normalize the settler colonial regime and so on and so forth. Now, I've had my arguments with those people. But I guess what I want to ask you, and this might be a strange question, what do, I'm not asking what do Israelis want, because I don't care what Israelis want, because they're crazy, most of them. I'm not talking about you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like you don't ask, well, what does the crystal meth addict want right now? Well, what he wants is more crystal meth. Okay, so if I love him, I'm not going to just give him whatever he wants. And I think Israel is an addicted country. It's addicted to power. It's addicted to supremacy. It's addicted to fear and terror and having enemies and being hated and being righteous and all that. But what do Israelis need right now from the outside, if anything? What's I guess as an Israeli, or what do you need as an Israeli activist who's doing this work inside of there? What would support you energetically, materially, rhetorically. Does this question make any sense? Is it landing at all?
I think, I mean, what I need and what the different voices that are, you know, in Israel, it's all very, very different needs. I need you to continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
think
there is value to the work those of us outside of Israel are doing.
there are Jews outside of Israel right now that are saving us from ourselves. People here don't see it right now. They're not able to see it. There are, look, there are some people who are so blinded by what happened on October 7th, and they're so cornered in their corner of grief, and I told you, like, victimhood, they don't care. They don't care what you say. They don't care what Biden says. They don't care about what, like, boundaries. They're all out, everything, anything. And there are some people here that soon the blindfold of, like, the what happened and the mess and the chaos and the hostages and the pain and the, you know, it will come off, and they will shake, and they will say, oh my God, what has been done while we were away grieving? Because some Israelis are like, don't talk to me, I'm grieving right now. Okay, Habibti, you're grieving, but while you're grieving, horrible things are being done in your name from people who are not grieving. They're full of revenge and hate.
I'm remembering that somehow. I always remember song lyrics, and that Bjork song "Army of Me" just came to mind. You know, stand up, you've got to manage. Your rescue squad is too exhausted,
Yeah.
and if you complain once more, you'll meet an army of me. Like, just okay.
Yeah.
Your feelings are valid, but the stories you've created around them are keeping you
Yeah.
in your feelings, and you're
Yeah.
getting something from staying in your feelings, and
Yeah.
your government is getting something from you staying
Oh,
in your feelings. And your
oh,
feelings, if you were awake to your feelings without the propaganda narrative, then those feelings could channel you towards actual anger and motivation to change the conditions inside which the thing that you're grieving fucking happened.
I was so proud that there was some civil disobedience here before, when we were protesting against this government. Netanyahu needs to kneel down on his knees and kiss the feet of all the citizens here who, instead of going out rageful against him, are putting on, like soldiers, like uniform, and going, like, and being obedient citizens more than they should.
Yeah.
We blocked the roads and we burned the main roads when Netanyahu fired the defense minister Gallant in March of last year. We burned the roads, we blocked the roads. We're like, and now we're not doing half of that for much, much more, radical situation that this government has done to us. And it is because most citizens at times of war here, they unite, they're obedient, and it is shameful, and it is going to kick us in the ass later on, because what is being done in the name of our grief and pain is
That's right.
irreversible.
No. And it's gonna there's a rot. I see something. Israel does not come back from
No,
this. There is no normal after this.
no.
You could have normal after protective edge, pillar of defense, cast lead, all these horribly named massacres. Israel's relationship to the rest of the world is fundamentally changed, and there is a rot. There is a stain now at the very center of the Israeli psyche and the Israeli society that is only going to spread, and things are going to start to implode, and you're putting pressure on it from the inside and you're hoping for a gentle implosion that you can collect enough good people and build something good. Just to reply to someone in the chat who asks her, she says, I think in a sort of um, slightly sarcastic way, Habibti, what are you doing to save the Palestinians from Hamas? I guess you missed the part when Noam said she doesn't give a shit about Hamas. It's not her business. It's not any of our business. That's the Palestinians'
No,
leadership.
no.
That's the prison gang.
There is, as I said, there is a very straightforward answer to that.
Yeah, what's
The
that?
monster called Hamas has been fed by
That's right.
very, very strong governments, including of publicly stated. Nobody's hiding it. I'm not. It's not like this amazing genius political analysis that I have. Go and look up what Smotrich, the minister Smotrich said. Go and look up what Netanyahu. It was a policy to strengthen Hamas. Don't come to me, ask me about Hamas and why and what do I do about Hamas.
Yeah. Go. Don't talk to me about that rabid dog. Go talk to its owner, which is the Israeli government.
People don't.
It,
Yeah, people don't understand the root causes of things. But please stop saying Hamas. It's
yeah.
Hamas.
Hamas. Well, this is the thing, right? Because Ashkenazi Israelis can't pronounce that particular throat consonant, right? So they go to, and they can't pronounce the the Arabic consonant for Gaza, so they say Aza because the ayin they sort of just
Yeah,
flatten it. Other things I've been learning. So my Instagram's going to kick us off automatically in 3 minutes. I'd be happy to resume and do a part two with you if you have more time, but I know it's very late there.
yeah, it is very late. Let's see what the reactions are. I don't know. Should we continue or maybe
Do it
oh,
or do it another
yeah,
time.
we can also do another time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for all you do, Daniel. Thank you. And when I'm in the US, I speak much more freely than I am right now.
We'll get your ass over here sometime
Soon.
because your voice. I mean, I really appreciate everything you're doing, and I hear the bottled up frustration of doing it with such little support, and just there's got to be in the aftermath of this some structures that we can, if we think creatively and imaginatively, creating international solidarity networks with Israelis like you there,
Yeah.
from people on the outside connected with Palestinians, like the moment is
Yeah.
now. Like South Africa has shown us there is this moment where the channels are kind of open right now, and this is a cry to the world that you're giving us, and I feel like something's going to come from it. So you and I should keep talking about this. I feel like there's some things that could be created.
And we're here long term, so it's a long term commitment. So
It is. It is. Yeah, you're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Um, yeah,
let's just wait until Instagram kicks us out.
absolutely. Let's just smile at each other until that happens. Our mutual friend sent you some love in the chat. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, I missed it, but I feel the mutual friends support in the
Yeah.
air. Are you happy?
Am I happy? Overall, I'm very, very happy. Yeah.
Good. I'm happy. I want to hear more.
Sure. Yeah. I am.
Gossip knows
I am non-specifically happy.
it's gossip nobody gets to know the details of,
Oh,
just me and you.
come on, Noam. Come on.
Kidding.
Yeah, you going to do a demonstration on Saturday? You guys meet every Saturday?
Not every Saturday. Sometimes Tuesdays and Saturdays. Sometimes just Tuesday. Sometimes just Saturday. It really depends. Everything changes by the hour here, so it's
Okay. All right. Well, let's spend our final seconds just loving each other up and loving up the chat. Everyone's
Oh,
just so full of love.
someone said he's blushing. Someone said, "Good news, guys. We got ceasefire resolution passed today in Chicago." Oh, who passed the resolution in
Maybe
Chicago?
the city of Chicago called for a
Oh,
ceasefire. Who knows? I'm not
wow,
sure.
wow. Much love to all. This is nice to receive these comments. I haven't been reading them.
It's been happening the whole time, Noam, and you'll see it when we post this. I'm going to make you a
Oh,
collaborator on this post, so please accept the
yeah,
collaboration.
perfect.
People appreciate you so much, and I appreciate this because there's been this break between anti-Zionist Jews out here and Jews there in Israel. and I fucking love you guys, and it's just so good to be able to like live that, you know, in front of the world.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Thanks. This gives me some oxygen, this conversation,
good.
to be honest.
We'll do it again. Let's keep this going.
Okay.
A few seconds, and we'll probably be kicked off. If we make it to 5:31, then maybe we've beat the algorithm, but we'll
Here's
see.
from Morocco.
Hi, Morocco.
تحياتي المغرب.
Hi, Haneen.
Oh, wow. This is fun reading all this love. Therapeutic. Ooh. I tell my therapist, someone said therapeutic on my conversation.
I think I think you got to make this part of your self-care regimen. Get on the fucking live and get some love.
Yeah?
Yeah, you need to be paid back in some way for all the energy you're putting out there.
It's been hard being exposed so much, but maybe I should do it more.
And Adam says something gamlanu.
Gamlano.
Yeah.
Oh, leave America alone. That's a nice pink heart.
Hi. Let's leave Carice alone. That's my friend Carice Van Houten
Oh,
from Game of Thrones,
oh,
all the way from
oh,
Amsterdam.
hi.
We have a podcast together about lyrics that we're no longer doing these days because we're both too busy. But yeah, that's the Red Lady from Game of Thrones.
Oh, amazing, amazing, amazing. Hi. Okay, you're not alone.
Well,
Love from Ireland. Oh, I love Ireland so much. I think Irish people are Mizrahi and Arab people, hospitality-wise, mixed up into one nation.
I think that makes sense. I'm actually going to Ireland in March. I'm giving 2 talks
Lucky
there,
you.
and I'm so excited. And I feel like, yeah, that's one of the most Palestine supporting places in the world.
I've never felt so at home like in Ireland. They're amazing. And Northern Ireland, I learned so much when I was in Ireland, in Northern Ireland. My God. Yeah, we have so much to talk about. Also, I lived in Rwanda for a year. Anyways, we should talk more.
Yeah, but somehow we made it past the deadline,
Yeah.
so we can hang out a few more minutes.
Okay.
Baltimore, Junkyard. Did you see my post about The Wire? All the quotes from the show The Wire from Baltimore that fit the moment. I posted that a few days ago, and I also got. And it doesn't matter. That's hello Seattle. Hi Lindsay. For the night is dark and full. She said her catchphrase. Thank you, Carice.
Yay. We love the people of Ireland. Noam, bring me home. Yalla, it's your home. Come home. Yaret. You will be home.
Any plans? Any plans for Toronto?
Toronto.
That someone asked.
You,
What?
right? You know Amber, the director Amber Faris, who's making the
No.
documentary. I think she said that you've been there's a documentary being made about like coexistence, my ass, like my show and me, by Amber Faris. She's a Lebanese. I think she's watching us. I'm sure she's watching us. She's watching everything you and I do. Hi, Amber. She is doing a really cool film, like kind of following me all around in the last years. And she's Canadian, Lebanese.
Okay.
And yeah, so I'll have to go to Canada eventually. It's always like in the plan, but I haven't made it yet, except for the Niagara Falls, which was fun one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of beauty in Canada.
Why did you ask about?
Because someone in the chat said any plans for Toronto, and as a Vancouverite, my answer to that is yes. My plans for Toronto are to stay as far away as possible.
Oh.
But that's a joke because I actually like Toronto in some ways more than I like Vancouver these days. But
that's a filmmaker. You see, people know Amber in the chat. She did this brilliant film called The Speed Sisters. It's about Palestinian car race drivers in the West Bank. It's a brilliant film. I really urge everyone to look for it and watch it.
The Speed Sisters.
Sisters. Huh. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. Are any of your like comedy? Do you have any comedy specials that we can view online?
No. I took my show for the first time to Edinburgh Fringe Festival in August, and I received like 4-star reviews and things were going in the right direction, and but my comedy writer, we chatted, and I think on October 8th or something, she wrote me a message saying like, you need to throw all your material to the garbage. Nothing is relevant anymore. Only your material about being single. And then she heard that I got engaged. So she called me and she yelled at me, now throw everything to the garbage. So yeah, I need to write new material.
You're obsolete now.
Yeah.
All washed up. Yeah, well, I mean, look, once this heartbreak starts to crack open a bit and it starts to feed you some energy, that's where some amazing art can come from, some amazing comedy, you know?
Yeah. I love how much lighter Noam seems now. Oh, good. Yes. Maybe on this lighter note, we can say good night.
Maybe that's a good idea.
And thank you, Daniel, again.
You're welcome. Bavakasha. Thank you for blessing my Instagram live and sharing everything you got. We'll do this again soon. I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Inshallah.
And everyone follow Noam and Laila Tov.
Laila Tov. Bye, everyone. Thank you for the lovely comments and support. Bye.